Basketball has been a really hot topic this year with movies, and here we have another sport basketball biography movie called Sweetwater that is now available to check out in theaters. Is it worth your time? Well, stick around and find out. Hall of Famer Nat Sweetwater Clifton makes history as the first African American to sign an NBA contract, forever changing how the game of basketball is played. The film stars Cary Elwes, Eric Roberts, Richard Dreyfuss, Jeremy Piven, Kevin Pollak, and many others, and was directed by Martin Guigui. So when going into Sweetwater, I did watch a trailer before going to watch this film some time ago. I honestly forgot about the film and forgot it was actually coming out this week, and being that it's a packed release week, I went ahead and checked it out. Films that I saw prior to this weren't that great, so I was really hoping that this film would be a slam dunk. It's a sports drama, so how can you really mess it up? And that was really my biggest expectations going into this film. So this film, it really follows Sweetwater, a basketball player who plays on the Harlem Globetrotters, and he gets recruited to play on the New York Knicks, and he faces a lot of racism. The film takes place in the late 40s into the early 50s. And the film takes place mainly when he is an adult. It doesn't really go into his childhood sequences. We get a little bit of flashbacks of his life, but we really don't see a lot of his early life, which was really disappointing because we only get to see him when he's on the Harlem Globetrotters, and then when he obviously gets drafted to go to the New York Knicks. The film really relies heavily on the fact that it is really about racism with this film, and mainly it has the owners really getting together and deciding if they should really integrate blacks into the NBA. And there's a lot of fighting amongst both owners and coaches to see if they should really make that change. Now, it shows Sweetwater on the Globetrotters. The Globetrotters are basically a team that wasn't in the NBA that basically put on a show. They play other teams. And they do a lot of tricks. They show off their athleticism. Now today, they actually do tours for the Globetrotters and they show off their skills. They did play one NBA game, I believe, against the Lakers, but I think that was back in the 40s. But other than that, they never really played any professional sports teams. But a lot of this action towards basketball in this movie really does focus really heavily on the Globetrotters. You see that Sweetwater is making next to nothing. And I would say that these basketball scenes, they're not too exciting. It definitely felt a little bit dull. I think the basketball action in this movie definitely could have been elevated more. We only get to see one NBA game, and that is when Sweetwater debuts in the NBA. And during that game, I would say that is when basketball is the most exciting. But again, Sweetwater faces a lot of racism as the referees don't really call the game very fair. They call fouls on him that aren't fouls. And it's very apparent that racism is still alive and large during that game, even though they are trying to integrate the league, being the fact that he was drafted to the Knicks, and then two other players are actually drafted to a couple other teams as well. They do show them getting drafted, and they're all side by side, and they do interviews and such like that. But they didn't really elaborate on the other two players. They just have Sweetwater really having his debut game, and that's really what it really focuses on. The last game that really does show his NBA career, that is the last 25 minutes of the movie. And we get to see the backlash and just kind of the nervousness of the different owners that they're getting ready to debut a African American in the NBA. And we get to see, I guess, the hardships of what the owners are going through and the papers and what people have to say and their opinions and what those owners are really going through. But we don't really get a big perspective on Sweetwater. How does he feel about the racism? What is he really going through as far as emotions? I don't feel like we really get that from him, and they don't really go into Sweetwater's point of view. The point of view of this movie really kind of goes more so into the whites for the owners and the coaches and how they really feel about integrating blacks in basketball, in NBA at that. I just don't think that they really were very objective to everybody here in the film. and it makes the film feel very flat. I also felt like I didn't really learn a lot about Sweetwater as a whole in this movie. It's such a small sample part of his life. Now, towards the end of the movie, after it wraps up, it does go through a few different scenarios of things that Sweetwater actually went through in his life and what he accomplished, which was great. It would have been great if they actually incorporated in the film, but they don't do that. We don't learn about his childhood. We don't know a lot about his mother and his father, if he had brothers or sisters. It was really disappointing that we didn't get that. We do know that he likes to mix sugar in his water, which we did learn that through a series of flashbacks, but I don't really think that we learn much else about his life. I feel like I really need to go pick up a book and actually learn a little bit more about him, because this film is such a small sample size, and unfortunately, I just don't think it's a very good biography film. As far as a score for this film, I would give it a 2.5 out of 5, and I wish that the film just did a little better job of actually having opinions of both the said person that we're actually following here and not just one side of the story. And unfortunately, this film is just an okay film that I would probably never pick up and watch again. And I would say that if you want to watch this film, I would definitely stream it, rent it for the cheapest price possible. It's definitely not really a film that I would say that you need to rush to watch. Definitely a film that I would say save on a rainy day. And if definitely you're not really into sports dramas, I don't think this one is really going to elevate you to want to watch more or really get too excited, as it's not really an exciting film, I would say. I just think that the basketball action can be very boring. Other than the last 25 minutes, it wasn't very much exciting in the basketball action, unfortunately. But let me know down in the comments, did you like this film? Did you hate it? If you haven't checked it out, is it something that you're going to check out? Let me know. Thank you guys for watching this review as always, and I will see you guys on my next review.